Hello! So, as many of you may know, 2 years ago I ditched my cozy creator lifestyle, bought myself yet another copy of Cracking the Interview, and set out on my 4th career pivot, this time to product. And just like your typical indie movie hero, I had my eyes set out on PM since graduating college, but it always seemed like this uphill battle reserved for MBA grads and X-Wing engineers, none of which described me. So in today's video, I thought I would share how I got my first PM job with very little experience and my journey and reflections after my first year-ish as a product manager. So I first heard about the product manager role back when I was a software engineering intern at Amazon. And while I saw our PM as often as we got free food at Amazon, this did plant a curiosity in me about product. Maybe because I actually didn't like coding as much as I thought I would, or just because I wanted to feel like a boss lady. And so the following year when I started my new grad job, in that very first month, I actually reached out to my manager and I told him that I was interested in product and wanted to either try it out or maybe switch into it. So that brings me to my first tip, which is that the most foolproof, most straightforward way to get into product is just to transition internally. And before that, to either shadow PMs on your team or to take on mini PM projects. And in my first year at Freedom, that's exactly what I did. We actually didn't have a product manager on our team, but that meant that I could fill in the cracks as a mini PM of sorts. So it started off by just writing design docs for the team. Then I helped design our sprint process and wrote Jira tickets, which was very boring. And finally, by the end of that year, I took on a project both as the PM and as the engineer. So this meant I met with our users, aka just people across the room, designed the feature, I built it out, tested it, and even got feedback from the team and users. And by the end of that first year, I was able to prove to myself that I actually liked PMing and not just the idea of it like most of my other forgotten hobbies. And in fact, at that point, I was actually offered to transition into product if I waited another 6 months, but of course I didn't have the patience for that. And so instead, I decided to leave everything, move to Texas, become an entrepreneur, all with a grand total of 11 subscribers. And in many ways, this was actually the biggest factor that helped me get my first PM job. And so my second tip is to treat any project you're working on as a product. So you can build experience PMing without the official PM title. And so through YouTube, I was able to wear all the hats as a PM, from design, like designing thumbnails and editing videos, to product sense and crafting a niche, and marketing and managing social media. And of course, tons of soft skills as well, like communication and user empathy and time management. And even besides this YouTube channel, there are also tons of smaller projects from coding to design that also helped me build these skills. One project I worked on was a common intern script where I found this problem, which is that it's hard to apply to jobs. I built a solution to it, which was a Python bot to automatically apply to jobs. And then I shared it online on Reddit and got, I think, 500 plus stars on GitHub. And so kind of without knowing it, I started building up a portfolio of projects and skills, all which could translate into my PM interviews and also, like, more importantly, to my job as a PM. And then at the 2-year mark of this channel, while I did really enjoy making videos, there was one thing missing: money. And so I found myself crawling back to the tech industry and rediscovering my love of product. And this was a pretty intimidating decision because frankly, there are not that many PM jobs out there, especially now, and there's tons of competition. Whereas I had not worked in tech for 2 years, I'd nearly forgotten how to code, and I had this job as a creator that most people either did not understand or thought was just dancing on TikTok. But still, like anything in life, I thought it was at least worth a shot. And so I gave myself a few months to polish up my dusty old resume, to absorb an MBA's worth of product knowledge, and to apply to as many jobs as possible. I made a whole video on how I prepared for my PM job, which I'll link right here, but my number one tip from this process was just to practice, especially through mock interviews. For context, for like software engineering interviews, you got lead code, which is very methodical and objective. But with PM interviews, it's the opposite. You'll get thrown really obscure questions like design YouTube for aliens on the moon. And so the only way to really build confidence for these types of questions is to practice as much as possible. And so the way I did this was that I first enrolled in PM communities online, and then I would find other people like me also applying to jobs, and we would book time on each other's calendars, and then we'd just show up for 1 hour on Zoom and ask each other one question each. And so from April to July 2021, I spent my evenings and weekends either reading about product, listening to PM podcasts, or doing at least maybe 5 to 7 mock interviews a week. I'll link all those resources that I use down below, by the way. And also in parallel to this, of course, I was applying to as many jobs as possible. Because of my limited experience, it was pretty rare that I would hear back. So whenever I did, I would hold on to that and practice as much as possible. And so after months of grinding, at least 100 mock interviews, probably hundreds of rejections, rejections, a few breakdowns along the way, and a generous amount of luck, I was able to land my PM job. I'll be honest, the process was really stressful. It took several weeks and at least I think like 5 interview loops, and I was tested on everything from behavioral to my data skills to my design and Figma skills and product sense, everything in between. So yeah, I think looking back, there were definitely tons of moments where I wanted to give up or take an easier route by applying to engineering roles. But yeah, I guess the Indian tryhard in me wouldn't let that happen. I need more coffee. Be right back. I know especially like in your 20s, there's a lot of pressure to find the right career. And not only that, but also to become successful in that career. Whereas for me, I switched and I failed a lot in those perhaps like earliest and most crucial years of my career. Every 3 years, I switched from pre-med, then to CS, then entrepreneurship, and now PM, which is basically the reverse of any Indian parent's dreams for their child. And sometimes along the journey, it felt like every step I took forward, I was taking 2 steps back. But I think that's okay, because even though it's taken, I think, 5 years since grad, knock on wood, I think I've actually found a career that I can see myself continuing for the next 5 to 10 years. And the number one reason why I feel this way is because as a PM, I can always be learning and growing. As an introvert, honestly, a lot of times PMing can feel like this meme, and there are many moments of this job that feel really challenging, from all the context switching between design and marketing to taking on the brunt of responsibility for projects. And honestly, even just like talking a lot throughout the day is tiring for me, which is why I got this book. And while I don't think anyone is going to say that these experiences are super fun or enjoyable in the moment, I definitely appreciate that they forced me to learn and push myself out of my little bubble. As an example, when I first started working, I had to set up dozens of one-on-ones with people on my team. And as someone who'd nearly forgotten how to talk to people since COVID, this was pretty scary. And honestly, those first few weeks were really draining emotionally and socially. But as with anything, with some practice and some time, it got better. And now I think I have like 5 to 7 one-on-ones a week. And they're actually some of the more enjoyable meetings on my schedule. And that is it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it and learned something. I'm trying my hardest to stick to my 1 video a month rule. So yeah, give me some ideas down below for what you want to see next month. And yeah, before you go, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you next month. Bye! I'm back! Hey, Yogi! Hello. How do you like my coaster? It's a cat butthole.